YouTube, we are on LinkedIn, and we are on Facebook. So everything is getting set up with that. So all of the internet's working around the clock to make sure that this happens. And it looks like we are live. And I want to welcome you today to becoming a Social Security millionaire. And we are going to be boiling down the 81 strategies and showing you how you can maximize your own benefits for what you want to do for yourself and your spouse in retirement. Now, let's jump into the PowerPoint itself here. Okay, so first of all, I'm hoping that everyone can be seeing what I have here. If for whatever reason you are not seeing my screen, go ahead and just let me know. And obviously we can be making some changes here, but just by way of introduction, my name is Nathan Crampy. I'm the founder of Lions Wealth Management. And here at Lions Wealth, we are striving to help you create an impact in your community, in your family, as well as your business through a well-defined wealth plan. So that's our mission that we have here. And Social Security is a big piece of that because that helps for your income streams and for how you can be a blessing to others. So we have a lot to get to today when it comes to everything we're going to be talking about. Let's dive into the details. First of all, just know that this is just for your information. Nothing is solicitory here. There's nothing that is promissory, and this is just general information. So for all the strategies that I have been presenting today, go ahead and go back to your own planning and take these strategies to do your own planning correctly. Now, we have a couple of things that we're going to be getting to today. We're going to be talking about the Social Security essentials. We're going to be talking about benefits and options, and then we'll be talking about some strategies to consider and the next steps of how you put this all together. So we do have a lot to get to today as part of our strategy. But let's start with eligibility. First of all, the best thing for you to know is that you have to have 40 quarters of eligible wages that are paying into the Social Security taxes, so your FICA taxes, just to be eligible for Social Security. 40 quarters, which equals 10 years. So you have a 10-year window that you have to have of working history just to be eligible for Social Security. And off of that, then we have Social Security taking the top 35 years of your work history, and that comes into what makes you not only eligible, but what they go into your provisional income, your income amount that you will have coming from Social Security. So that is something to know, that that's how they calculate it. But the first rule that we look at when you become a Social Security millionaire is make more money then. Because while you're working, like I said, if we're looking at the highest 35 years of your work history, and you need to have at least 10 years of work history just to become eligible, it makes sense that if you work longer, if you are having higher wages, that's going to actually help your benefit. Because when we take a look at the numbers, we have the primary insurance amount. That is amount that you need to write down, PIA, the primary insurance amount. This is what Social Security Administration uses to calculate what your benefit actually is. And so it takes into account not only your age, your work history, but like what we were talking about, your earnings. And so those 35 years, it's going to replace earnings. Let's say you've worked for 40 or 45 years. If one of those years replaces another year that you had lower earnings, your benefit will go up. So that's one way to become a Social Security millionaire, is continuing while you're working to have higher wages that you're earning and make more money that's paying into the Social Security system via FICA taxes on a yearly basis. PIA. Everything we talk about is based upon this number. Then we take that back to your full retirement age. That is the other information that you need to write down. FRA, your full retirement age. So when you take a look at everything that's happening with your Social Security statement, they're going to give you an amount. That amount is your PIA, and that's based upon your FRA. So the income is based upon the amount you can receive at your full retirement age. Now, for some of you, that age is going to be 66. For others of you, though, that's going to be on a sliding scale all the way up to age 67. So there's a difference of some of you for the years of which your full retirement age is, and it's a set number. So you look at your birth year and you can determine when your full retirement age is. Good to know. So primary insurance amount, FRA, everything we talked about is based upon these two figures. Now, the second rule then comes back to your becoming a Social Security millionaire is picking when to start your income, your benefits from Social Security correctly. You see, what that comes down to is that there's many different strategies just for you alone to consider when taking a benefit. You can take it at your full retirement age. So in this case, we're looking at age 66. Well, that really does say that if you have $2,000 for a benefit, that's what you'll receive at age 66, which in this case is the full retirement age, the FRA. You can also take it earlier, and you can take it as early as age 62. Now, however, here is that if you take it early, like at age 62, you're going to have a benefit that is reduced. So if you have a benefit that you want to take and you're going to take it earlier, it's going to be reduced, and it could be as low as only 75% of your benefit, meaning we lopped off over 25% of your benefit just because you decided to take it early. Now, sometimes that's needed. So that's where planning comes in. Sometimes that is actually the more beneficial strategy for you to take it early. But there's a however here. If we wait just a couple of years, all the way from between age 66 and age 70, 70 is the latest that we can be claiming Social Security benefits. And if we wait until then to claim Social Security, you are going to get an 8% guaranteed growth on your Social Security benefit on a yearly basis. So that could mean upwards of 132% of your benefit that you would receive just by waiting to age 70 versus taking it 66. And that is an incredible amount of difference there. So that's really comes back down to the planning, that sometimes it may be more beneficial for you to wait to take money out of Social Security versus drawing it earlier. So when you take a look at all this, it comes down to your break evens. And if you look at age 62 here, between 62 and 66, the break even is roughly about 78. Now, what that means to you is that if you take your benefit early, you may be better off waiting if you were going to be living past age 78. So at 78 and beyond, you will have made more money from Social Security just by waiting a few years. And the difference becomes even more stark when you look at between 66 and all the way upwards of 70. The break-even points are between age 80 and 82. So that means every day past your 82nd birthday, you will have claimed more in benefits from Social Security by waiting until 70 versus taking it earlier. So it really comes back down to, well, how long are you going to live? Your longevity, your just anything about your history. And we have kind of a running joke in the office that if you tell me when you're going to die, I will tell you exactly the best way to take Social Security. Obviously, that's kind of a joke because of the fact that we don't know when we're going to pass away. But as long as we're on this side of the grass, the right side of the grass, we can make some estimated guesses, call it. And so what we look at is health history. We look at your just lineage and do you have some kind of some bad things in your lineage, health-wise, and we can start to put together some ideas if we're going to be obviously needing to take your Social Security a little bit earlier, or if we can wait until a little later to take Social Security benefits. So that is something that age comes really down to your health history, your longevity, and how we can maximize the benefits correctly. So let's just take a kind of step back here, though. When we take a look at all of what's happened through history, longevity is happening more and more. You see, just even 60 years ago, we have had a lot less of a longevity for not only men, but also for women. And today, just a short while later in human history, so 60 years of human history, we have added between 10 and 20 years onto our lifespans. Now, that's through modern medicine. That's through just the medical systems that we have here. That's through just having good nutrition. That's through a lot of different things here that we are starting to understand a lot more. But we also have a lot of technology that is coming into play as well. And we have a lot of medical device companies that are coming out with some fantastic equipment that are helping us more and more these days. So we can be avoiding a heart attack before it starts. We can be avoiding a lot of things before it happens. And that alone is helping for our longevity. Now, I actually was doing some research here, and I found a really interesting piece that I was reading, and it was talking about going through the facts and saying that there is a reason to believe that we could live to the age 1,000. Just think about that. No longer are we living to the age 100. We could be living to the age 1,000. And more so to the point of what they were talking about, the person to do that could already be born today. Think about that. That just in the next short number of decades, we could have vast improvements in just longevity to the point that we could be living to the age 1,000. So taking your Social Security benefit may mean more today than it ever has, just based upon some of this information. So let's dive into, kind of where we have been and just kind of going along planning stages here. Right now, on average, about half of Americans have claimed their benefit early. So this is today that half of American population claims their benefits at age 62. A full third of them claim at their full retirement age, and almost no one stays until age 70 and waits to claim the benefits. So that is not alarming, actually, when you start thinking about looking into Social Security, you're looking into where it's going. And right now, if you look at cumulatively all of retirees that are claiming a Social Security benefit, 70% of them claimed it at age 62. And the average benefit is about $1,200, $1,200. And that's all they have to live on. So that actually goes to show you why a number of people claim their benefits early. But if you're here listening to this and watching this, my assumption is that you are not going to be living on your benefit only, or solely just on your Social Security benefit. You may have other investments out there, maybe have other pension income to live on. So planning is going to be much more vital piece. And for the other people that are claiming their benefits here, my guess is only a small fraction of them went through planning, not only on their Social Security front, but also on how to maximize their benefit. You have the benefit to go through all of the planning stages to make sure that you can maximize your benefit. Okay, third rule of becoming a Social Security millionaire is don't lose your benefit. So if we're going to become a Social Security millionaire by the income that is giving us, well, we don't want to lose that income unnecessarily. Now, what I mean by that is that there's ways you can actually lose your benefit just by your income that you're receiving. So if you take your benefit early, you actually can lose a benefit while you're working. So you're taking a benefit, say starting at age 62, while you're working. If you go over the threshold, you may lose your benefit. And for this year, you can see that our limits are about $19,000. So if you go over that $19,000 while you're claiming your Social Security benefit early, you can lose part of your benefit. And it's $1 for every 2 you go over. So what that looks like then is that if you are over that amount and you're over about that $38,000 of income, you will lose all of your Social Security benefit for the year. Now think about that. It's hard to become a Social Security millionaire when we lose their benefit. Now there's also things that come into play in the year that you turn your full retirement age. There's differences there in the amounts, but knowing these amounts, you can do some planning. And if you are looking to take your benefit early while you are still working, well, that comes down to then now you can talk to the Social Security Administration and they can work at how to change your benefits around correctly so that you don't lose them. Now, you don't lose them permanently, but it's while you have that working income. Okay, so let's stop right here for 1 second. I want you to, and this was on the slide that I showed and I shared with you, but if you take your benefit early while you're still working, you can lose benefits. Go into the chat and answer this question. Can you lose your benefit if you're still working and you are taking a benefit over the age of your full retirement age? So if you are older than full retirement age and you're still working, can you lose your benefit? Yes or no? Go into the chat and put in a Y for yes, N for no. Nancy, no. Mark, no. Jill, yes. We have Ann that just came in, no. Yes, we have a lot of people that are here saying no. And that is correct. You do not lose your benefit if you are working while drawing it and you're over the full retirement age. Good job, everyone. That's wonderful. Okay, let's continue on here. So we have everything that we're talking about with working while you're taking a benefit. But the fourth rule of becoming a Social Security millionaire is know thy tax. Taxes are a big piece of any good financial plan. So is knowing Social Security taxes. Okay, so Social Security has some rules about how much of the benefit is coming in to be taxable. So it goes off of what you call your provisional income. And your provisional income is your modified adjusted gross income plus 1/2 of your Social Security benefit. So taking a look at that, and this is calculated every single year that you are taking Social Security. So every time you file your taxes, this is calculated. And here are the numbers. If you are under $32,000 married, filing jointly, you owe $0 on your Social Security benefits. You do not owe a single dime in tax on Social Security if your provisional income is under $32,000. Now, if you're between that $32,000 and $44,000, that's where things change. All of a sudden, it's not zero anymore. It's 50%. It's 50% of your Social Security is subject to tax. And I'm using my language very clearly here. That's 50% of the benefit that is subject to being taxed. That's not the tax that's on Social Security. That's how much of the benefit is coming back to be taxed. And then we go obviously through the ordinary income tax bracket, say you're in. And then if you're over that 44,000, 85% of your benefit is subject to tax. So this is actually some good planning that you can go through as well. So if we're looking at what the benefit is, that's one thing. If we're looking at the tax aspects, that's a whole nother thing. Because when we look at it in this way, we can do some different planning, especially if we're looking at maybe changes in the tax code. Well, maybe we want to do a Roth conversion. So in this case, I was just talking to a couple a little while ago that yes, they wanted to do some Roth conversions, and they were in that 50% bucket that we're talking about here, between the $32,000 to $44,000 for provisional income for the year. And what this looked like then is that if we did the Roth conversions, that would help them in kind of a long run on being that tax-free nature, but it hurt them in the short run because of the fact that we are having to pay tax on the conversion itself. So we have that taxable amount, and then we have the additional tax coming from Social Security, going from the 50% of the benefit up to the 85% of the benefit becoming subject to tax. So now we have a tax upon a tax. So this is what you would actually call a double taxation then. That's happening just because of the fact that we change things around. So knowing that, we did some different planning for them, and we were able to avoid jumping into that bracket of the 85% subject to tax. So just knowing where you're at on the taxable front is very beneficial to you. Okay, moving right along here. There's a lot to get to, and so we always want to be moving on and sharing all the different little details behind Social Security. Now, provisional income, there's a lot of misnomers out there about what actually is a part of it. So I talked to you about the fact that it is included in your Social Security. So half of the benefit comes into being part of your Social Security benefit. Then we also have anything else here. So we have municipal bonds. That's a huge piece of it. Because remember, when we talk about municipal bonds themselves, generally they are tax-free on the federal level. Now we are bringing them in, and they are actually subject to tax as part of the overall provisional income. So there actually may be what you would deem tax on municipal bonds. Wages are a part of that. So that comes back into your provisional income. Business income. So for those of you who are owning your own business or have a company that you are part owner in, that income that comes in, while you may not be paying FICA taxes as a part of it, that still comes back to your provisional income. So you still actually need to be claiming that, and that could increase the amount of tax that your Social Security benefit has. Interest, capital gains, dividends, your IRA distributions. That's a big piece of it, rental income. But the things that are not part of it, Roth IRAs, the distributions from those, and the other part of it here is the non-taxable income from life insurance. So if you've taken a loan from life insurance or in other ways have non-taxable income from life insurance, that is a big piece and not coming back into this provisional income. And especially with the changes that our president is proposing on not only the tax front, but on the capital gains front, more and more life insurance is becoming a bigger piece of the planning puzzle to avoid some of these taxes. So there are some great ways for you to be considering as you look at your own plan. Okay, so let's keep moving on here. Fifth rule of becoming a Social Security millionaire is know thy spouse. I would hope that we all know our spouse, but more and more today, that's not necessarily the case, especially if you just met and eloped in Vegas or something. That may not be the case. That's not what I'm talking about here, though. I'm talking about know thy spouse, know their benefit amounts. That's going to be a big piece to making sure that you know the full picture of Social Security. And what that looks like is you may actually be able to claim a spousal benefit. So if there's a large discrepancy between your spouse's benefit and your benefit as to the amounts, meaning that theirs is significantly more than yours, you may actually want to claim a spousal benefit. So if we look at everything here, when you are full retirement age, you can claim a benefit, and it's 50%. half of your spouse's benefit. Now you can also take that earlier as well. So you can take it all the way to as early as age 62, just like your benefit. However, is that it's going to be reduced just like your benefit would be. So that's going to be a permanent reduction. Everything we talk about these reductions are permanent. We're not going to be able to go back and make changes to it. So that's why the planning now is basically a big necessity for the future. And again, there's reasons to take it early, especially if that benefit is much larger and is going to be helping with income in the near future, and maybe longevity comes into it where we're not going to be living as long. There's still some very significant reasons to take it early. Now, if your full retirement age is 67, you can see that you're only going to get 32.5% of your spouse's benefit. So again, that has to be more than yours, but there's reasons to say still that it may be worth waiting until your full retirement age to take your benefit, but that's the planning you have to go through. Well, not only that, not only taking a look at a spousal benefit, but we take a look at survivor benefits as well. And like I said, if it's a permanent reduction, that's going to be a permanent reduction on your spouse's benefit. If they claim early, it's going to be a permanent reduction on your benefit if you claim early, but also it's going to be a permanent reduction of survivor benefits. So the surviving spouse is going to get the larger of the two benefits. So whichever is greater, they're going to get one benefit, whichever is greater. Well, this could mean a difference of hundreds of thousands of dollars over the surviving spouse's lifetime just by helping to make the correct choices on a survivor benefit option too. So not only are you not just solely thinking now about your own personal benefit, we're bringing your spouse's benefit in there, and cumulatively, what does that look like? But then we're also going to be bringing into account the survivor benefits. And if we do all that, now we're really looking at how we can add hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of both your lifetimes in Social Security. Another great strategy, and just more planning to go through. Yes, there's a lot of planning here, but do it correctly, do it today, and you will see and reap the outcomes from it. Okay, so we have been talking about a number of different benefits. We've talked about the strategy for couples. We've talked about some survivor techniques there, and we're going to get to talking about former spousal benefits here in a second. But let's take it one step back here. Let's go back to spousal benefits and claiming early, just like what we have talked about with you as an individual, versus even waiting or until full retirement age, or even claiming at age 70. The benefits change, but it's still only going to be a break even between that 80 to 82 years of age. So what that means then is that if you wait longer, you're going to receive more in benefits if you have longevity on your side. Just keep that in mind. That's one great way to maximize your Social Security benefits. Now, we talked about survivor benefits as well. So we can claim as early as age 62 for your benefits. But if your spouse had claimed early and passed away, so in this case, we're looking at John and Claire. Claire has a longer life expectancy than John by almost 10 years in this case. But if he had claimed early, she would get an extra $355,000 over the remainder of her lifetime once John passed away. But if John had waited until age 70, Claire would have gotten about $100,000 more in benefits. So just understand these concepts is a big piece of knowing how to become a Social Security millionaire. Lastly, this is something that's not as widely known, but you can actually look at your ex-spouse's benefits as well. And having about 50% of the population having a divorce, either you or someone you know has been a part of a divorce. So this is a very real piece of the puzzle. And you can go into the Social Security Administration and they will actually pull up the records of your ex-spouse. And if those records and their income was significantly greater, there's a likelihood that basically their amount is going to be greater than yours, and your spousal benefit may be greater than your personal benefit. And so you can look at claiming an ex-spouse benefit as well. So this is something that is very discreet. Your ex-spouse is not going to know about it. They're not going to be notified. There's going to be nothing there other than the fact that you now have been able to look off of their benefit and make the determination if that is a better benefit for you to take. And this is generally something that you cannot do online. So I would definitely suggest that if this is something that you are wanting to at least consider, talk to the Social Security Administration in person about this, and they can help look at those records. So ex-spousal records are a big piece of that as well. Moving on. 6th rule of becoming a Social Security millionaire is know thy income. Yes, we talk about taxes, we talk about Social Security, we talk about a lot of things, but the income comes back to a big piece of it. You see, for a number of individuals, Social Security is the only income that they're ever going to receive in retirement. But again, I am going to go on a limb and say that most likely you have some investments, most likely you maybe even have a pension or some other areas where you could be looking at income in the future. So what that looks like then is if we look at your working income, if we looked at Social Security, if we look at your investments, we put all of those together, now you're able to actually go in and start looking at the best possible options on a holistic front. And that's where you want to get to. So let's actually look at this conceptually. So first of all, for those of you who are married, just have a discussion with your spouse just about what retirement is going to look like, how much you want to be having as a retirement budget on a monthly basis. Look at developing a plan for yourselves, just kind of what that future is going to look like. And then just have some scheduled times where the two of you can connect and talk about how things are going. So you call this an update meeting or a scheduled meeting. I mean, all these things are just a piece to see of how things are going. Well, that's a big piece of it. When we know the income, now we can schedule those meetings and see how things are going. But the first thing we do for knowing that income, go back to Social Security. Go back to how you're going to start claiming Social Security. And what you're seeing here is a free calculator that you can, that everyone can go to with Fidelity here. And it's actually going to you put in all the details, and it's going to tell you what is the best strategy for you. So if you want the link to that, I'm going to go in here and pop into the chat the link. So this is the link for the LinkedIn page. Type in SS Calc into the LinkedIn page there. And what we will do is we will send you the link to this Fidelity, this free Fidelity calculator. So go ahead, go to that link, type in SS Calc, and then we will go ahead and get the link for the calculator. But how this works, how the calculator works, is when we look at it here, you put in your age, you put in your earnings, you put in your gender, and your life expectancy, and if you're married or single. And what it'll actually do then is go through all the calculations for you. So this is a very, very easy piece for you to say, if you are not going to be living it long, well, in this case, it's going to make sense for you to claim earlier. And it can actually go through and list out the likelihood for your benefits over the course of your lifetime. So again, it's an estimate, but this is just something that you can have as a tool on your behalf to know where your Social Security benefits will be. Now, just adjusting for longevity, look at the difference here. Everything was exactly the same, except you're living longer. Now, the calculator redid everything, and in this case, it's going to make sense for you to claim your benefit at age 70. So when we go back to looking at all the details here, one thing you should notice, look at that. Over $1 million this person would be claiming estimated from Social Security. So they would become a Social Security millionaire just because of how they went through this quick and easy planning. That's what makes this really special. This calculator really special is because it has a very good conceptual piece. And then you can actually go in down there and make changes if you want to take it at, say, 64 or 68. Other numbers, adjust those benefit amounts just accordingly to that. So you take those numbers, then we go back to your planning stage. So this is where you go as part of your planning, look at all the other investments that are a part of it. And so I'm going to run you through some planning that we do. And this is something that you can do on your own as well as part of just knowing the numbers. So as I talk through how we do it, this is something that you can do on your own as well. But we look at just all the different assets that they have. So this is Gary and Gail. And Gary had a lot of retirement assets. They have some jointly held assets and the house, things like that. So we looked at the strategies that they had, and then we went through all of those things that we were talking about with respect to how to become a Social Security millionaire. First thing we did was go through knowing thy income. Where is the income coming from for Gary and Gail? So let's give you a little bit of a backstory here. Gary is 61, just retired, and he has about a $3,000 benefit. So he's been the higher wage earner. Gail has been working incredibly hard her entire career. She's been doing that as a stay-at-home mom. So even though she's been working incredibly hard, she doesn't have as much of a benefit. So she actually only has $300 a month of a benefit. So that's another piece of it. She was not paying into FICA taxes, so she doesn't have as much of a benefit. Now, this can also be true for those of you who are owning your own business and who are actually receiving business distributions and business income versus wages. Because if you're not paying into FICA taxes, you are not going to be receiving as much from Social Security. So again, just great to know. So if you look at both of what we're talking about here, we put the strategies together, and now we start linking all the different concepts together. And for Gail, we needed to go through this, make more money. You see, she's only 56. Gary is 61. So there's not only time difference, but she has another number of years before she's going to be claiming Social Security anyways. And going back to that original slide that started it all, the eligibility, yes, she has 10 years of working income, those 40 quarters. But when we look at her 35 years of Social Security, just in general, of the wages, she has a lot of zeros. And so one of the strategies that we put in place for her was go back to work. Now, we were not talking about going back to work 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 on a mundane job that she didn't like. We're not talking about that. We're talking about having her working consulting or working even basically for a company that she really, really aligns herself with and really loves and would love working there. So this can be a joy for her as well. And even if she only makes $5,000 a year or $10,000 or $15,000 a year, that right there is going to be replacing one of those zeros on the Social Security statement. So of course, that's going to be a high 35 than what she had been. That's going to raise her PIA amount, the primary insurance amount, like we talked about, And all of that is very beneficial for Gail's amount. So this was a very important piece just for her own right, and something that she actually was willing and wanting to do. Now, the other piece, don't lose your benefits. Now, remember, that is where we're actually going through and receiving a benefit while we are working. This was something we didn't have to go through with them. Gary was not looking to work anymore now that he's retired. Gail is still too early to be drawing a benefit. So this particular piece, we didn't have to worry about. But we really wanted to pick for them when we start their benefits. So we went through the Social Security calculators, just like what we had talked about. But the piece of the puzzle that you need to really consider is that it's not just about maximizing your benefit. It's about maximizing your benefit while you're trying to minimize how much you're taking from all of your other assets, your investments, everything that you could be leaving as a legacy or blessing your family with. Those we want to minimize how much we're taking out of those while we're maximizing our Social Security benefit. So in this example, we went through all the planning for them and their probability of success. The probability that the money they have is going to last all of their retirement, as well as most likely leave a legacy. They're at an incredibly high amount, in 83%. Anything over 80% here is incredibly good. And so they're at an 83% for probability of success that the money is going to last all of retirement. And this is taking Social Security at age 62. Well, we're going to go through a lot more planning for them, though, because knowing their situation, especially since they have longevity on their side, I wanted to take a look at full retirement age. So in changing nothing else, just when we took Social Security, we added an additional 5% onto their probability of success by doing nothing else other than waiting until full retirement age. So we are really starting to get there for them, that they're going to have a very, very good retirement, and it's doing nothing else other than changing of when they claim Social Security. Now, we didn't stop there, obviously, because like I said, they have longevity on their side. So claiming at age 70, remember, is a way to maximize your benefits. So I wanted to see what this would do to them, just because of they waiting until age 70 and taking more in benefits. Look at this. Isn't this interesting that claiming a benefit at 70 for both of them made no difference? Now, obviously, this is their scenario. This is not your scenario. So this is where the planning that you can go through to see if it's going to make a difference for you. But for them, it didn't. There actually is the same exact probability of success if they took it at 66 or if they waited until age 70 to claim their benefit. Okay, so that was very interesting. Now we went one step farther on this as well. We took a look at, well, the last piece of the puzzle there that we are looking at is know thy spouse. And remember, this is the spousal benefits and how they relate to each other. And when we took a look at the age discrepancies, when we took a look at the benefit amounts, the best strategy for them actually, and helped to increase their amount by 2% more to 90% probability that the money that they have would last all of retirement, and they're going to be able to leave a legacy. So creating that impact that I was talking about, it was by having Gary take his benefit at age 70, but Gail taking her benefit at her full retirement age. But not only that, we're claiming the spousal benefit as well. So all of this planning we went through, and we can do side-by-side comparisons just like this to find out the best avenue, not only to claim Social Security, but what that means to the rest of their overall wealth plan. And when we took a look at everything else, we came back to saying, well, yes, they had great benefits. We knew how to maximize things, but let's know thy tax. What's the tax going to be, and how is that going to come back against them? And this is not always going to work out as well as it did for Gary and Gail, but if they would have taken their benefits earlier on, just by way of how much of their benefit would have been subject to tax, some number of different avenues there, they actually would be owing more in tax on an ongoing basis than if they had waited until age 70 for Gary and full retirement age for Gail. They're actually paying less in tax overall on a yearly basis. And when I started looking at that, not only that, but if you can see, there's some red that comes into here as well. That red is alternative minimum tax. So there's a lot of things that is working to their benefit to say, this is our strategy that we're going to be going down, is by claiming later on versus taking it earlier. And it comes back to the probability of success working out better. It comes back to reducing taxes overall. And that is a fantastic place to be. And again, this is some planning that you can go through on your own as well and just be considering there. So overall, when you look at becoming a Social Security millionaire, Gary is going to be claiming roughly in his lifetime benefit, probably over $1.2 million from Social Security. And Gail is just slightly less than $500,000 cumulatively. Look at that number, $1.689 million. $1.689 million. That's almost $1.7 million that they're going to be claiming over the course of their lifetime cumulatively. And that doesn't even start on the survivor benefit amount either. So this likely, with Gail's health history and being younger than Gary, could be well over $2 million for them just by this Social Security planning. When you take a look at this, it makes your head spin just of how much the planning on something as seemingly insignificant as Social Security can benefit you so much. This is a big piece of it. And so there's three aspects of your mountain. You have the building your wealth piece, and a part of that is your wages and paying into the Social Security system so you can continue to increase your benefit. You also have your wealth protection part of your mountain, where you're looking to protect your wealth. And then you have your wealth distribution, where you're looking to take money out of your plan and start your Social Security streams. My question to you is, where are you on the mountain? And for the entirety of not only my career, but we here at Lions Wealth, we look at the protecting your wealth piece and the distributing your wealth piece. There's so much planning that goes into these two pieces. And this is something, when you do it correctly, in the context of Social Security, in the context of your overall plan, in the context of taxes, not only where they're at today, but where they're going to be in the future, you start to really good opportunities. And this is not just a one-time set it and forget it. This is an ongoing thing that you look at as part of the protecting and your distributions, so that when things change, when laws change, we have had so many different law changes in the last 2 years alone, it really does make your head spin to try to keep track of all of them. But when those things change, update your plans correctly so that you're looking at how to protect your wealth while you can be distributing and taking from your assets as well. So right now, as part of our webinar exclusive, what we are offering here is that wealth progress meeting. So we are going to help you on creating that impact that you want for your business, for your family, for your community, and help you become a Social Security millionaire as obviously much as we're able based upon your work records. But this, just our time alone to do this is valued at $3,000. So this is a huge deal for being part of today and a webinar exclusive. And so what this looks like is that there's a 2-meeting, not only wealth assessment, but also a plan that we put in place for you and your family. And this is putting you onto the correct starting path to create that impact that you want. So what that does is we dive into the discovery meeting. The discovery meeting here is questions that are going to address really what you want for the future and what's important to you. So we look at what is important to you, and we look at how can we best understand the next chapter of your life. Then we start putting those plans in place and creating a progress plan. Well, that comes to our gap finder. This is the second meeting that you get to have with us. So we're going to go through some of that Social Security planning. When is the best time for you and your spouse to create and collect Social Security? The retirement risk, the goal planning that we're talking about. It's not really fun to be retired and have nothing to do. What do you want to do with yourself? The enjoyment that you want to have, the goals that you still have for this next stage of life. We want to take those into account as well. The tax planning piece. What is that going to look like today, tomorrow, and in the future? Wealth protection, wealth enhancement, the estate planning, making sure that the money that you have saved up goes to the intended people at the intended time with the least amount of tax consequences, and obviously charitable giving and much more. So we put all of that together and show you your probability of success. And this is where we can be helping you to create that impact. And I like the stairs over here as well, because you come up with the ideas. This is the wonderful piece of having your wealth and looking at the future. We put the plan in place. Well, the best way that we here at Lions Wealth can do is, once the plan's in place, to help to implement that plan. So we implement that plan, but that doesn't stop there. We learn what's working, we learn what needs to be corrected, and we make those adjustments along the way. And ultimately, that is the stepping stones that will lead to your success in this next chapter of life. So all that's a part of the progress meeting. Now, if you sign up today and go through the progress meeting, we're going to give you 3 more additional items here. We're going to give you the 2022 Capital Gains Harvester Calculator. Now, that is something very special. You see, it's no secret, really, that President Biden is looking to make changes on the tax front. He's looking to increase taxes. And one of the areas that he's going to be having the most profound impact on is capital gains. You see, we have 3 different buckets right now. We have the 0%, the 15% capital gains bucket, and the 20% capital gains bucket. He is looking to add in over a 39% or more bucket on top of that. So this calculator will actually tell you if you should be taking capital gains this year or if you should be postponing them based upon his new proposed taxes. And then obviously knowing the story, you can start making some informed decisions from there. Second, and that's at $149 value right there. Second item that we're going to be giving you actually is a 2-item combo pack. That's 2 retirement white papers. One of those white papers is going to be the 2021 Social Security guide that we put out. And the second one is going to be one that is part of Elite Wealth Planning. That's a $35 value. And then lastly, we're actually going to be throwing in the Elite Wealth Planning book. This is an $89 value, all part of signing up and going through the process to not only become a Social Security millionaire, but also all the details of the gap finders that we're talking about here. So we have the 2 meetings, and this is 2 meetings here: the discovery, the gap finder, the probability of success. That is just on our time alone of $3,000 value. We have everything related from the President Biden tax law changes for capital gains. That calculator is the $149 value. We have the retirement plan white papers, $35 value. And we also have the Elite Wealth Planning book that is yours. That's an $89 value. Once you go through the process, we will send all of that to you. Now, all of this, like I said, that's a huge amount of not only time for us to go through this for you, and all the information that we're providing for you just by going through the 2 meetings. And again, this is 2 meetings. This is not just a half-hour consultation. This is not just send me your Social Security amount and I will send you just an analysis on your Social Security. This is going through you. This is going through what is going to make you and your family successful to create that impact that you want. So there's a lot here, and that's where 2 meetings are set aside and dedicated for you. Now, in order to schedule, go to where I have highlighted there, the lionswealth.com/contact. lionswealth.com/contact. And as part of everything today, as part of what we're talking about, for those of you who sign up today and today only, and use that code SS29, Social Security 29, SS29, in the message section of the contact, we will send all of this to you, and we'll have those 2 meetings plus all of those bonuses to you free. It'll be complimentary. This is a huge deal for you to go through the plan, get all of this information. That's over, just in our time and resources alone, $3,275 value. That is going to be free just by going today to lionswealth.com/contact and put in SS29 in the message. That's all you need to do. And then one of my team members will be in contact with you. We're going to set up those meetings, and we will get started on the path to making sure that you can have as much help to become a Social Security millionaire as it relates to your overall wealth plan. So go ahead and do that. This is for today only. And I would love to not only be talking with you, to be enjoying the time with you and looking to help you in this piece. But remember this is valued at our time just $3,275, but between us and the resources. But think about the hundreds of thousands of dollars the difference could make just from Social Security planning alone. With that, I want to thank you for being a part of the webinar today. It's always fantastic to go through this and to go through these planning pieces here. And I look forward to talking with you. With that, take care. Enjoy the rest of the day.